A disgusting display by the Tigers. Clearly, the season is over. We're going to talk about it. Locked on LSU. I'm ticked off. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe as always. One of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. I don't think that's going to be a problem today. LSU loses to McNeese 7-6. Whoa! Clearly, this team stinks. Clearly, they are overrated. Clearly, they are not worthy of their praise. Clearly, they are no good whatsoever. Or maybe, last year's national championship team lost to Omaha and was run-ruled by Northwestern State. Y'all don't want to think about that, do you? 2023 Tigers lost to both ULL and to Nichols, but y'all don't want to think about that either, do you? All right, we'll get into the game. Okay, look, I'm patronizing a little bit. If you have followed me, my content, whatever, for any length of time, you know how I feel about this. This is baseball, and some of you don't like that explanation. But LSU's been playing baseball since 1893. The first ever athletic event in LSU history was a baseball game between LSU and Tulane back in 1893. First ever athletic event. LSU, in more than 100 years, 130 years of athletics, has never had an undefeated season in baseball. It just doesn't happen, man. I mean, I guess LSU Shreveport did it last year, and that's awesome, which is so wild and crazy. But you're going to lose games, man. You're going to lose games. This is baseball. It's what happens. Some of you don't like that explanation. You don't think LSU should ever lose to McNeese, but it happens all the time. I mean, the great Skip Bertman was swept at home by Houston in 2000, a year where they won the national championship. LSU lost a home series to Maine in a national championship year under Skip Bertman. You lose games. It happens. So when a game like this happens, I tend to look at, okay, what did I see? What did I like? What did I not like? What were they doing? And I don't necessarily need to delve into, do midweek games matter? We've had that conversation for a decade now. When I started that whole thing when LSU lost in 2017 to South Alabama, and the thing I pointed out at the time was there were none of the pitchers in that game that were going to throw for LSU in Omaha, and none of them did. It's the midweek is more about getting guys at bats, experience, mound time for your young pitchers, figuring out roles. And along the way, you're going to win way more than you lose, but it's baseball. And there's times that things like this are going to happen. So I want to go through the game a little bit, but more importantly, I want to go with what my takeaways from this game were, because I think that's really what we're looking for. And this is a game where, man, LSU, it started really good. I mean, LSU in the first inning, Marcos Paz got the start, who, by the way, Marcos Paz is a guy that, but for having surgery in high school, never would have showed up on a college campus. This is a guy who, mark my word, book it here on Tuesday, February the 24th at 10:38 p.m. Central Time, I'm telling you, is going to be a weekend starter for LSU. Not this year necessarily, but in his career he will be, and he'll be a dominant one. I mean, he's a guy, he's an upper 90s guy that everyone in the scouting world thought would be a straight to the pros guy, but had surgery, arm issue surgery, ends up on LSU's campus, and that's going to be to LSU's great benefit. But this was his first start, and sometimes that's not going to go great. Now, in the first inning, it did go great. He went fly out, strikeout for a 1-2-3 first, and it was awesome. And then Yorke homered in the bottom of the first to put LSU up 2-0. And you thought, oh, this is going to be really good. This is kind of how it looks in midweeks. And then in the second inning, it completely got away from Marcos Paz. And a lot of it was things that he maybe could have controlled. he got a strikeout to start the inning, so you're feeling good. But then he goes single, ground out against two outs, one on, and he goes walk, hit by pitch, bases loaded, walk, and it's over. Just that quick. And when you look at Paz, his stuff is amazing, and he's going to be great. But I had a conversation with William Schmidt on my radio show on Monday, and he talked about, I asked him the biggest difference year one to year two, and aside from his, just his physicality and being a bigger player, gaining 20 pounds, he talked about like the nerves and just understanding. It's like you throw the first pitch, throw to the first hitter, and you're like, okay, I've done this before. And for some of these guys, it just matters a lot. No matter how big of a prospect you are, you go from throwing 97 to 100 against high schoolers to pitching on the mound at Alec Box Stadium wearing the LSU uniform. And some guys take that easily and some guys don't. Some guys are Derek Curiel that can start from their first game in college and be a near 400 hitter and get on base in literally every game. And some guys are Cam Johnson, who are supremely gifted players who just struggle to throw strikes, and it takes them a couple of years. So it's the benefit of a midweek is a guy like Marco Paz, who's this insane physical specimen with this incredible ability, needs those experiences, which is why midweeks matter for him, is to go get mound time in a game that's, you lose it, it's not going to hurt you. And that's always been the point about midweeks. It's not to say that any competitive environment you should try to lose or you shouldn't try to win. Of course you should. But it's to say losing that game isn't going to prevent LSU from reaching any of its goals. Midweek games are far more about getting guys like Paz mound time, experience. In this ball game, y'all, if you're not looking at the box score, and I'm looking at it right now, LSU threw Paz, Williams, Dothy, Rizzi, Lockenmeyer, Ricken, Garcia, Cowan, Sheerin, Newt. Paz, Williams, Dothy, Rizzi, Lockenmeyer, Ricken, Garcia, Cowan, Sheerin, Newt. 10 pitchers. 10 pitchers in this ballgame. 10. The only way you're ever throwing 10 in a conference game or a regional game, a postseason game, is if you're up 10, down 10, and you're just getting through it. So I'm just not going to overreact to that. I'll tell you, the thing I thought was actually an interesting decision was not starting Zach Cowan, because Cowan did start in the midweek last week against Nichols. And he didn't do great. And then he didn't pitch this past weekend down in Jacksonville. So I thought they'd give him the ball and maybe let him extend a little bit. That didn't happen. Now, Cowan did get into the game, and he faced two hitters in in the seventh. He went out there and he faced two hitters, and he got a fly out and he walked a guy and then gave away to Sheerin, who was awesome, by the way. And so if I asked you this, and this might be my biggest takeaway of the entire game, if you go Paz, Williams, Dothy, Rizzi, Lockenmeyer, Ricken, Garcia, Cowan, Sheerin, Newt, those 10. I said, who do you think are the guys that are going to be the most significant contributors moving forward? I would probably tell you Sheerin, Cowan, and Garcia. Cooper Williams probably in that mix as well. And Rizzi. But guys like Paz, Dothy, Lockenmeyer, Ricken, maybe Newt, we'll see, are guys that you're just trying to get experience to at this point. Williams pitched 2/3 of an inning. Faced four hitters. He did hit a guy, but he had a strikeout and gave up a hit. Rizzi went 2/3 of an inning, walked a guy, hit a guy, not great. Garcia, I thought, was huge in this ballgame. One of my really big takeaways was Garcia. He faced two hitters, struck them both out. And I think that is massively important. I'm sorry, he faced three. He gave up a hit and struck out two. Cowan, we just talked about. And then Sheerin was fantastic. Sheerin went an inning and 2/3, So he faced the minimum, struck out 2. And Sheerin was awesome and continues to prove that he's a really reliable and awesome end game type option. So that's more what I look at, because I'm looking at this point, who do you think you're going to be able to rely on when you get into really key moments? So as to say, if you're in a 3-2 ball game on a Saturday in conference play against A&M, and you need 2 outs, who are you going to give the ball to in the 9th? Well, Sheerin is starting to establish himself really as that guy that you can count on, because every time he's been out there, he's been that guy, right? That's the value of a lot of these games. So let me really quickly step aside so I can get all my elements in. I want to come back. I do want to talk about this game. So there were a couple of key moments in the game that I thought were certainly impactful, and we'll get to that as we continue. It is Locked on LSU. Thanks for being here. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda, moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. I don't know. In this game, LSU loses to McNeese 7-6. So you kind of look at where was a lot of the good. I mean, the only player with multiple hits was John Pearson, who actually had a homer in the 8th inning that drew LSU within 7-6. So we can go with John Pearson in this moment. And these remind us of what it takes to raise the bar, the extra work off the field, dialing in every detail, giving it the extra fire, the grit, the never quit. Well, Mazda puts the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Hey, you ever want to go to the NBA Finals? Of course you do. Who wouldn't? Well, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which teams can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. And now, not only can you pick your cash, not only can your pick cash, but it can also send you to the NBA Finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Finally, brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is sitting open. Well, when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And the stat that says it all: in the roughly minute or so since we've been talking, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of Locked on LSU will get a $75 sponsor job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked on LSU. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. So a couple other things that I wanted to dive into. I thought it was so important in the 2nd and the 4th inning, which were the only 2 innings of the ball game where McNeese scored runs. And the reason I think it's important to note both of these, one of the things that Jay Johnson talks about often is, look, you're going to give up runs. It's baseball. It happens. But when you do, you need to limit damage. You need to be able to hold them to a single run. Like over the weekend, we saw some of those instances where maybe there was an uprising, but you were able to get guys on. Maybe a guy came in, but you were able to limit damage. That didn't happen. McNeese only scored in 2 of the 9 innings, but in both of them, the innings got away from LSU in large part because of some of the self-inflicted wounds that McNeese was able to take advantage of. So in the 2nd, Paz led off the inning by striking out Stringfellow, but then they went single, ground out. So again, 2 outs, 1 on 2 outs, and it went walk, hit by pitch, bases loaded, walk. You allowed them to get on the board without putting the ball in play. That's a problem. Like, that's a self-inflicted wound. So then Williams comes in, hits a guy with the bases loaded, another runs in, and then gives up a single to allow another run. So all that to say, yes, McNeese had a couple of hits in the inning, but that was compounded by your inability to throw the ball over the plate. And maybe in this entire game, the one that I was most concerned about was Cooper Williams, because that's a guy from the left side who they are really counting on to be an impact guy. And the stuff is plenty good enough, but he's got to throw it over the plate, and he didn't in this game. So you start to look at where is that impactful left-hander out of the bullpen going to come in. And I think maybe, just maybe, that's where a guy like Garcia comes into play, which I want to talk about in a second. But think about the fourth. The fourth, where they put up the 3 spot, started when Fontenot was hit by a pitch. So you opened that inning with Dothy hitting Fontenot. So runners on, nobody out. You bring in Rizzi, who promptly walks a guy. So you have automatically given them 2 base runners. Then you get a ground out, hit by pitch. Again, they have 3 guys that have gotten on base without allowing a base hit. That's a problem. So then they go sac fly to score a run, and then a single, which scores another run. The point being, in their 2 innings with the crooked numbers, they had, let's see, a hit by pitch, a walk, hit by pitch. And then in the second, they had walk, hit by pitch, walk, hit by pitch. You gave them 7 base runners. They scored in 2 innings. In those 2 innings, you gave them 7 base runners. Like most nights when LSU scores 6, now they out-hit McNeese 8-7. Most nights, if you get 6 runs on 8 hits, you're still going to win the ballgame because your arm talent should be plenty good enough to do that. This wasn't one of those because on this day, your pitching staff walked 6 and hit 5. You gave them 11 base runners in this ballgame. Now, you look and say, okay, well, who gave up those base runners? Well, Paz walked 2, Rizzi walked 1, Lockenmeyer walked 1, Ricken walked 1, Cowan walked 1. Hit by pitch, Paz, Williams, Dothy hit 2, Rizzi hit 1. I mean, it's why I look and go, Williams hitting a guy, Cowan, that walk, Rizzi walking a guy, hitting a guy. Those are the ones that I'm most concerned about because those are guys you think you're going to count on this year, and you need them to be better than they were in this ballgame. Now, I also thought something that was a positive was after LSU scored in the 6th, 7th, and after LSU scored in the 5th, 6th, and 8th, LSU was able to throw up a 0, which allowed them to get back in the ballgame. Because after going up 2-0 in the bottom of the first, McNeese put up a 4 spot in the second, a 3 spot in the third. They are in the fourth. They were up 7-2. And then LSU put up the 2 spot in the 5th, then put up a 0 in the 6th. They added a run in the 6th, probably put up a 0 in the 7th. Pearson's homer in the 8th, then threw up a 0 in the 9th. I think that was impactful. The ability after LSU scored runs to get back in the game to throw up zeros. That was a good response by the pitching staff. And I really thought in the 6th, it was so important what Garcia did. Because keep in mind, at that point, they go up 7-2. You put 2 spot in the 5th, so it's 7-5. They go out there on the 6th, and they go strikeout, double, walk. So now you've got first and second with 1 out, and Garcia comes in. And you need to throw up a 0 because you just inch closer. And what does Garcia do? Strikeout, boom, to end the 6th, out of the jam, to throw up a 0 that allows you to gain some momentum. That was a really, I thought, impactful moment in this game for Garcia, the Oregon transfer coming in that moment. So, look, there were some things that you liked a lot. Do I wish the offense had gotten going more in this game? Sure. But I'll also look, and I'm watching the game, and, in the 9th inning, Cerna struck out on a 69-mile-an-hour pitch. Y'all, the odds of LSU seeing a 69-mile-an-hour pitch in conference play or in the postseason, I mean, that's a 69-mile-an-hour pitch is something that I would have seen as a seventh grader. What are we talking about? It's when you're used to seeing 95 from everybody you face, and especially when you're doing intra-squads, and all of a sudden you're out there against a lefty, topping out in the low mid-80s. It's just a hard thing to adjust to. I know nobody likes that explanation. Everyone wants to be mad because they lost a game to McNeese, and it's embarrassing and all that stuff. But there's just literally an example in every season in the history of LSU baseball where you can point to LSU losing a game like this. So more so what I would say is congrats to former Tiger Justin Hill in his 13th season at the helm at McNeese on a great win where LSU wasn't at their best. McNeese made enough timely pitches and had enough timely at-bats to capitalize on LSU's mistakes, the gifts that LSU pitching gave them in this ball game, and they won a really significant game, a game that for them, for RPI purposes, is a really significant thing. And for LSU, the loss, that's not going to hurt them. I don't know, I'm going to hear the midweeks games matter and all that stuff. It's just, if you want to talk about from a competitive standpoint, do you want to win every time out? Of course you do. In baseball, it's not realistic. And losing this game doesn't hurt you a lick. As I've said a million times every year, LSU or any team in the SEC can lose every single midweek game they play. Can lose all of them. You can go 0 in the midweek. If you're 20-10 in conference play, you're a national seed. It's the nature of it. It's how it works. So this loss isn't going to hurt LSU. If anything, maybe it's a bit of a wake-up call and something for, hopefully, Jay Johnson, Nate Geske to learn from as they start to enact some of the lessons and some of the information they got from watching this game and this team lose in this game to maybe help them as they move forward. So Tigers lose for the first time this year. Their 16-game winning streak dating back to last season is over. So they'll lick their wounds and they'll get back after it this weekend for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday round-robin weekend out at Alex Box Stadium. Hopefully it's a good weather weekend out at the box. The Tigers have a round-robin with Dartmouth and Northeastern. So Friday against Dartmouth, Saturday against Northeastern, Sunday against Dartmouth, and then back on Monday night against Northeastern. Midweek game next week, Sacramento State, Creighton, and then they're opening up against Vanderbilt in conference. So getting close to conference play, another opportunity to watch the Tigers, albeit in a loss on Tuesday night against McNeese. And you know the drill. As long as the Tigers are playing baseball, we'll be here talking about it on Locked On LSU. So do me a favor, if you're watching with us live here on YouTube, thank you so much for being here with us. Please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate us, leave a review. I mention this often, but I would really appreciate it. If you are watching live on YouTube or if you're watching on demand on YouTube, thank you. Please still, even if you watch on YouTube, which is amazing, please still go subscribe to the audio podcast on your favorite podcast app. That's just a massive way that you could help us. So I'd appreciate it greatly. Okay, until next time, it is Locked On LSU, your team every day.